All right, so the first thing we're going to look at is circles. So you've got the circle formulas. Now we're going to have to use them. So the first thing we're going to look at is, in this problem, they want us to find the center and the radius. So if you remember from the formula, I've got x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So in this problem, my h is -1, my k is 4, and my r is 5. So we put that answer in. So I got -1. 4, and my radius is 5. When you click the circle, the first thing I want you to do is place the center. So I'm going to go down -1 and up 4. And then they want 1 point on the circle. So you could calculate and find a point, but since we know my radius is 5, I just have to count up 5 for my center. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And put your point. So you don't actually have to sit there and go through and find another point. You can use your radius to basically draw the circle to find another point that's on the actual circle. Nope, doesn't matter. You can go any direction you want. All right, so let's do the next one. So the first 5 questions are all circle problems. It's just a matter of how they're going to give them to you. So now this one, the difference in this problem is they don't give it to me in a format that allows me to easily solve, like to find the information. So I'm going to have to solve this problem first. So I've got x squared plus y squared plus 4x minus 6y plus 4 equals 0. So now we're going to take this problem right here. And we basically are going to have to make perfect squares, because what I want is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the x squared plus the 4x together. I'm going to put the y squared minus the 6y together. And I'm going to move the 4 over to the other side. So what that's doing is it's allowing me to group up the information that I need. Now, I need to be able to make these perfect squares. So to make this first one a perfect square, remember to find perfect squares, you take b divided by 2 and then square it. So that 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 squared is 4. So this gives x squared plus 4x plus 4. Now the y one, I'm taking the -6 divided by 2, which gives me -3, and squaring it, which gives me 9. Since I added 4 and I added 9 to one side, I have to add it to the other side as well to balance my equation. So now this one, since we found them to be perfect squares, this becomes x plus 2 squared, and this becomes y minus 3 squared, and it equals 9. Now I have my center is at -2, 3, and my radius is 3. Any questions on how I did that? For those that you cannot chat, you're more than welcome to unmute your mic and ask the question. I know we're having issues with chat tonight. All right. So I've got my, we used the b divided by 2 squared to find the piece that I was adding. So that right there is what gave me, that right there allowed me to find that and that. Because I took the b in each one, divided it by 2 and squared it. Basically, that does always is going to give you the thing that's going to make a perfect square. And then b divided by 2 actually ends up giving you the numbers that go inside your perfect square. So I've got my center. Was -2, 3. And my radius was 3. All right, so now we're going to go back, put this information in. So my radius is 3. My center is -2, 3. And then we graph it. So -2, 3. And then we go over 3. So a lot of the stuff that we're working with, we're doing the circles, even the ellipses and the hyperbolas, is going to be making sure you know how to factor and to be able to find perfect squares. All right, the next one. Now the next 3 problems actually are all going to be coming up with the equation for a circle. So we're not going to have to graph it, but we need to find the equation for it. So when we're defining that, we still need the h, the k, and the r. So in this problem, it says my circle is centered at the origin. So that means my h and my k are 0. But then it gave me a point. It's -7, 0. So we need to find my radius. So remember, the radius is always equidistant, or a point on the circle is always equidistant from the center. That's my radius. So if I could find the length of that line, I find my radius. Now this one's really simple because it's centered at the origin. So my radius is actually going to be 7 because I'm just counting 7 away from it. However, the way to do this, so you can do it always with any of the problems, is to use the distance formula. So the distance formula was x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So in this problem, it's actually really simple because I have -7 minus 0 and then 0 minus 0. So it ends up being just 7. So my radius is 7. Once I've got all that, I just type the equation in the problem. So yeah. Actually, in this case, because it's centered at 0 for the origin, you don't even have to put the parentheses. Oh, the radius is 7, so my number that I'm going to put here is the 49. Because it's the square of that. Questions with this one because the next 2 are very similar to this one, just without it or passing it to origin. All right, so this one, same concept. My center is -1, 5. But this time it gave me a point of -6, 1. So that's my h, that's my k. I still need to find my radius. So we're going to do my distance formula. So I've got -6 minus -1 squared plus 1 minus 5 squared. So we've got negative 5 squared plus 4 squared. So 25 plus 16 is the square root of 41 is my radius. So now when I write my formula, remember I'm using the square of that. So my radius actually is square root of 41. But the number I'm going to type into the problem, I square that. So the square root goes away. The other thing when you're typing them in is to make sure you get your signs right. The formula is always opposite of what they gave you. So it's y minus 5 squared equals 41. So it's x plus 1 and y minus 5 is the values we're going to go with. All right, one more for circles. In this problem, they don't give you the center. They give you 2 points. But in a circle, if they're only going to give you 2 points, they have to give you very specific points. They have to give you the diameter. So they have to give you points on opposite ends of it. So the first thing I have to find, I now have to find both things. I have to find my center, and I have to find my radius. So I have negative 4, and 6, negative 2. So to find my center, I have to find the midpoint of those two. So I have negative 4 plus 6 divided by 2. And then I have negative 4 plus negative 2 divided by 2. So my center is going to be 2 over 2, which is 1, and negative 6 over 2, which is negative 3. So that's my center. So that's H and K. Now, to find my radius, once I found my center, I take that in one of the points and do my distance formula. So it doesn't make a difference which point you choose. They'll both give you the same thing. So I get negative 5 squared, which is 25, plus 1. So it's the square root of 26. Is my radius. So we write our formula. Remember, again, it's always the opposite sign, so it's x minus 1 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 26. The one thing to make sure is that you don't use the 2 points for the diameter, because then you get twice the actual radius. So you'd have to cut it in half at that point. Any questions on circles? Because that's the end of the circle problems before we go on to ellipses. Yeah. You want me to do another one, or you want me to just explain this one again? All right, so we've got our 2 endpoints. So we got the negative 4, and 6, negative 2. I want to find my midpoint of that. So to find the midpoint, you're going to find average. So we're going to take negative 4 plus 6 and divide it by 2. And then negative 4 plus negative 2 divided by 2. So that's how I got the 1 and the negative 3. Hold on one second. I'll get to your question in a second, Caleb. So then once I got my center, I then do my distance formula to find my radius. So my center is 1, negative 3, and I'm going to use the negative 4 point. You could use the 6, -2, it would give you the exact same answer. So then I do the distance formula, -4 minus 1 squared plus -4 minus -3 squared, which gives me the radius of the square root of 26. Okay, your radius is the square root of 26. However, the problem for a circle is radius squared. So when you type it into the problem, you're doing the square root of 26 squared. And that's why you only typed in 26. No problem. All right. We're going to end this recording.